been journaling with the new and full moon for the last year and a half, and I found it to be incredibly helpful in my mindfulness practice. With each new moon, I set new intentions, and with each full moon, I explore something I want to release from my life. When I first started, I began to realize how quickly time passed, from new to full moon and full to new moon. It helped keep me accountable and more present. I'm a big fan of journaling for mindfulness and clarity. If you haven't tried it yet, I invite you to this month. My friend Emily introduced me to Clyde of Moon Mag, and in this episode, she shares the different phases of the moon and how to flow with these cycles in your life. She also shares the July forecast with us. She's inspired me to deepen my relationship with the moon and to work more intentionally. I hope you also feel inspired after listening to this episode. Welcome, warm welcome to Clyde Thomas of Moon Mag, a new online magazine and online community dedicated to help you understand the cycles of the moon and how we can tap into this energy to find a better flow in our lives. Clyde, excited to have you on the podcast today. Would love to have you introduce yourself, share a little bit more about how you got into this work.
Thank you so much, Alice, for having me on the show. I'm super excited to be here and always very excited to share my passion about the moon. So Moon Mag started actually with the April issue. So it started really at the end of March, which was kind of the first couple of weeks of quarantine, of lockdown for us here in France. I live in Paris. I have my partner and my young son who is 2 years old. And so the three of us live in our tiny urban dwelling in the concrete jungle of Paris. Luckily, we are right next to a park, though, so we do see lots of greenery out of the window. But seeing the greenery and being away from it and not even able to walk those few feet towards it every single day during quarantine was starting to drive me crazy. So I needed to make some kind of meaningful connection between myself and the moon in order to spread that connection through my family unit as well, so we can have some kind of balance and wellness in our lives during that time. And so that's how Moon Mag was born. I didn't seek to create a digital magazine. I was just, I don't even know what I was doing, but these ideas and images started to come to me. I will say though that about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I had done a lot of work and a lot of thinking and note taking about creating this virtual community around something meaningful, and this community being able to project and infuse this meaning into their daily lives through things such as what they wear every day, what smells they surround themselves with, what kinds of art and decorative items to have around the house, what music to listen to even inspire them. This is something that I thought about over a year ago. And so these thoughts started to bubble back up, and I wanted to see what they would look like on paper. And so that's how Moon Mag was born. So the connector for me to nature and this virtual community that I'm creating, the connector is the moon. So for me, the moon holds infinite wisdom, infinite inspiration. It has, it cycles through once a month. Over about 30 days. And in each cycle, there are 8 phases. So as the moon kind of fleshes itself out, releases, and then rebuilds to create itself over the course of each month, this is something that we as humans can align with as well, especially since we do have an actual connection to the moon through being Earthlings, right? So with this virtual community I'm developing, Moon Mag was created as I fleshed out all of these ways we can live our lives in accordance with the moon. So in terms of style, what kinds of clothes would relay different moon themes that arise each month? For crystals, which crystals can help protect us or really amplify any particular characteristic that comes about during any moon phase. Smells, what flowers, what essential oils, what aromatherapy helps us get in tune with the moon and with ourselves in this way, and stay present in our and mindful in our actions. So this is how the magazine was created, and it got really great feedback. I didn't even think about, about having contributing writers at first, but of course, a publication needs writers, and people just started reaching out to me and offered to contribute to the magazine. So the May and June and now July issues were born, and I work with a host of really amazing people to create content that inspires me and inspires all of us, and hopefully will inspire you once you check it out to live mindfully each day.
So incredibly intentional. And I love how the seeds were planted last year. And because of quarantine, you were able to move some energy, transmute some energy that resulted in an actual digitally tangible product.
Yeah, again, I didn't mean for it to happen. My intention over a year ago wasn't to create a magazine, but a community. But this is something that was inside of me, and with the stillness, even though even though we have a toddler running around, there's quarantine was a little bit different for me than it probably was for many other people out there, but even in that stillness, this, as you said, this creation just kind of came forward. This thing that I needed to express about myself, it just bubbled up, like just really nicely. It just came forth. So it was really cool.
Yes, a natural progression of the idea of the community and this being an extension of it. It's so wonderful, so lovely. And so I want to get into moon cycles. Can you tell me a little bit more about the different phases of the moon? I myself really enjoy journaling with the new moon, which is coming up soon, as well as the full moon.
Yeah, so I don't want to bog you and your listeners down with too much detail on each moon phase, but I think I just mentioned it there. The moon cycles every 29.5 days. So let's just say every 30 days, the moon goes through a new cycle. And in each of those cycles, there's 8 major phases. But there's little changes that happen even on a daily basis. So you can even get as, specific as that. But there's 8 major phases that occur with each cycle. So the first phase, of course, will be the new moon. That's the new blank slate, the tabula rasa to, start to project our visions and ideas and take our actions from, or start our actions. So with the new moon, I want to mention actually the 8th phase, because these two kind of go together. So the last phase of the moon is the balsamic moon. And this is a period of rest. And we're actually, we just finished a balsamic moon, the last few phases of the moon cycle, just recently. But the balsamic moon is a time of rest and a time to just clear the slate. Everything you worked on, everything you did, you just let it go, and you rest, you relax, you release, right? And so that is so that you can be set up with this clean slate, this blank slate for the new moon, to visualize, to dream, and be receptive of those visions and dreams that come, so you can you can have real clarity when you do, as you say, Alice, your journaling process. So with that clarity from having the rest and the release, you will find, right, and tell me what you find for yourself. You will find that you just start to scribble so much. There's so much visioning coming out. There's so many dreams, so many creative impulses flowing through. Is that what happens for you?
It varies every single month. Sometimes I'm able to journal a lot. Sometimes it feels a little bit more forced. And so it just depends.
Well, I will encourage you for the next new moon for July to take that balsamic moon period, the period right before, which lasts about a week, 6 to 7 days, and really find some moments of rest, of stillness, and then do your new moon journaling and see what happens. See if it changes at all. See if
Ah,
more things come forth.
so would you actually recommend that before a new moon that people find more opportunities to rest?
Absolutely. The 6 days before the new moon, as much as you can, introduce a little. So if you maybe rest, you usually take a rest, around lunchtime for an hour. Try to take a little bit more rest, an hour and 30 minutes, for example. I know everyone leads a really busy life, so I know it's kind of impossible for some people to ask them to just like take a whole day off or take several days off, each month. Like that's not going to happen. But try to find moments where you can take a little more rest, and also even in your productivity, even in your doing, you know, let it be a little more. Let it flow a little more. There's times where it's appropriate with the moon cycle, the moon phases, to really like take the action and force things through. But this is a time, even if you need to be productive, to try to just do so in a more relaxed manner. And I guarantee you that your new moon process, your new moon visioning, you will have a little bit more clarity around it. Not necessarily more data, but more clarity around what goals you want to manifest for that.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. And so to go back to the comment of a productivity, when is the best time to be productive in the various cycles?
Mhm. So when we think about this moon cycle and its 8 phases, the fifth, so the first phase is the new moon. So you got your blank slate. The fifth phase is the full moon, which everybody is always excited about the full moon, right? And I just want to pinpoint those as the first and the fifth phase. So you can have a general guide of how this goes. So the first phase is the moon is starting to wax, right? It's starting to gain momentum. It's starting to get to that full moon. So in order to get full, their action needs to be taken. So from the new moon to the full moon, this is your most active period when the moon is waxing. So the moon has become full, it's done all its work. From the full moon to the next new moon, that's when your the moon is waning, and so does your productivity. Okay, so just to think about it in simple terms of new moon, that's when your activity starts and really ramps up to the full moon. And from the full moon, that's when your activity starts to, dwindle down until the next new moon.
Ah, okay. That's good to know. So once that full moon hits, find more time to rest.
Yeah. Start to introduce little bitty periods of rest. You're still taking action in some of those next phases after the full moon, but at some point you're going to hit the balsamic moon period, and that's when just let it go. You did everything you could do. Just freaking let it go. Let all of that, be proud of yourself. Take inventory. You've done a lot of work. You had this vision you worked towards. It might be something you could complete in that month cycle. It might be something where you're phasing it out, phase one, phase two, phase three, over the course of the months. But take that time, after the full moon, to really take inventory, be proud of yourself, soak in the wisdom. Okay, so we've taken all these actions, but for what? Right? Why have we done these things? What have we learned from these things? This is how life works. You gain wisdom as you gain experiences. And so you can do this in these monthly phases as well. One of my favorite moon phases, besides the balsamic moon, I love the resting period. But one of one of my favorite ones also is the disseminating moon. This is the phase that comes right after the full moon. And disseminating moon is the time when you really do take the time. So you've been taking all this action, you've been doing the thing. Oh my God, you're so productive. You're, making this vision manifest. It's amazing. But now you take a moment, you take a pause to see what really happened, process everything. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? Where do I need to pivot? Where do I need to take my remaining actions for the rest of this moon cycle? And this is the time where you share, you talk to your friends, you share on your social media platforms, in your blog, you share with your family what it is you learned, and this is how wisdom occurs. This is something that I think is really missing in our modern day, like Western society, is this capturing of wisdom, allowing the process to allow wisdom inside internally, individually, and allowing it to spread through the community. This is something that I really love about the moon cycles, is that there's that point through in each cycle where sharing of wisdom is really something important to do. So yeah.
So essentially, the moon allows us to be more present and to slow down
Mm-hmm.
because in modern day, there's not a lot of opportunities to process and to integrate. That's, I think, one of the biggest things that we're missing because there's that go, go, go mentality, the checklist, the to-do list. And so before something even ends, you're on to the next thing already.
Yeah, exactly. But if you are mirroring kind of the way the moon works, then you allow yourself the time to, you still take those actions, you're still very productive, but you, again, like you said, you allow yourself the mindfulness to those present moments, to soak in that information, to share that information, to take moments of rest, to pause long enough to know when you're actually on the wrong course, that you need to redirect. These pauses, our society teaches us that stopping, that pausing, that slowing down is bad, but those are the only ways that we can actually ensure that we remain clear on our original visions, and we see them through to manifestation in a very like holistic and loving way. If we keep going on something just because we think we need to keep spiraling in action, and without taking a pause, we don't know if we're actually starting to create harm in some kind of way to ourselves or to others. You have to pause and relook in order to stay on the right course for yourself.
Yes, yes, incredibly important. And I also wanted to ask and gain some more clarity around the different types of moons that we have throughout the year, like a strawberry moon, all those different names,
Hmm.
the
Now,
different types of seasons.
yeah, this is something I don't really get into that much, honestly, but I think it is really important information. And I'm going to take a little note to make sure to maybe include those, at least on my Instagram or something. That's a really, really good point, because that keeps us kind of inspired. A lot of these different names for the moon seasonally each month are related to harvesting, or related to crops, are related to nature, to things that grow. So that's actually a really another layer of that connection to nature that the moon can provide. So traditionally, in Native American and many other indigenous cultures around the world, people harvest by the moon cycles, and that's actually something that's coming back really strong in the clean beauty industry. There's some brands that raise their crops of herbs and things that they put into their beauty products. They raise those according to the moon cycles. Here in France is really a big thing now for a lot of wine production to be biodynamic. That's what the process is called, biodynamic agriculture, where you are only doing your agriculture manually and through the cycles of the moon. So this is where these different kind of moon names come from, like the strawberry moon, or even the pink moon. I think it's April. Yeah, I think the pink moon is in April. It's not because the moon is pink or has a pink hue. It's because these pink flowers start to bloom all around in North America in April. So that's a really lovely thing that you brought up, because it's a really lovely connection to nature. Like everything, the strawberries are blooming in June, so this is the strawberry moon. These are ways that we continue to find layers of connection between ourselves and nature, and to keep us, again, present and mindful of what we're doing in the moment.
I had no idea that that's what biodynamic meant. Also, the moon
Oh, yeah.
cycles. I had no
Yeah,
idea
yeah,
about that last part.
yeah. Yeah,
That's so
so
interesting.
biodynamic agriculture is, I think there's maybe several layers to it, but one of the layers is the harvesting process is in accordance with the moon cycles. And the other layer that I know about is that as much of the agricultural work, the harvesting, the planting, as much of it that can be done manually is done manually, as opposed to with electronic machinery and things like that.
Makes sense. So I
Yeah.
think it's a wonderful time for us to chat a little bit about the moon forecast for July.
Oh my gosh, I love forecasting the moon. This stuff is so powerful. Oh my gosh. Looking back, I just have to say really quickly, we're currently in Saturn retrograde. And I think I should have looked at this before, but I think it's through November or December,
It
actually.
is, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Saturn retrograde. Oh my gosh. So when I was researching this back in April, I think because it started in May, Saturn retrograde is all about like huge upheaval, huge change on a societal level. And a lot of astrologers and things, that Saturn is really far from Earth. So the thing is like, oh, well, it might not have as strong an effect on as much of the population, but I just can't help but think about Saturn retrograde almost every day with what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that's kind of going along with that. It's a time of complete change in a infrastructural, structural, societal level. The current norm, and and a lot of us thought that this was about COVID, and it is about COVID too. But I mean, just look at the layers being added. The norm, the status quo can be no longer, right? And this is what Saturn retrograde is all about. And so we'll still feel the effects of that, as these next few months, as the rest of this year really progresses. So I'm really excited to see how Saturn retrograde ends up leaving us at the end of 2020. But
There's just so many things the astrologers have predicted and have spoken about. And truly, what I've learned from before 2020, it really manifested itself in a very interesting way that I had no idea. The first month, everyone, I remember, they were like, oh, January is just so intense. And I'm like, oh, good. This is what they're talking about. So it's done.
Right. Right. But it keeps layers and layers keep getting added on. So I think by this point, we're in July, we have learned our lesson. We know that Saturn retrograde is going to bring a little bit more and a little bit more every month, right, Alice?
It's building. It's truly building. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say about July. I know that we have a full moon eclipse in a few days as well.
Yeah, so just in a few days on July 5th, at least here in Paris, it might be July 4th in the Eastern Standard Time. Just maybe check on that. But on July 5th, we have our third and final eclipse of eclipse season. We had 2 eclipses with the full and new moons in June. And so this full moon that's coming in a few days, this lunar eclipse is in Capricorn. So with this one, you're going to have a really strong need to how do I say, be useful in society, to get justification from others. Okay. Because you're really doubting yourself. You're underestimating, you're feeling like your abilities and whatever you have to offer to the world is not very useful. So we really want to get this, really want to get others to acknowledge us and validate our existence. But of course, as you know, when we go that route, that's not necessarily the right route for us to go, because then we lose sight of what it is we actually do have to offer to this world. That's more of an internal process than one where we seek outside validation. So we, even though we want this approval so bad from the outside world, seeking it from the outside world is not what's going to get it. We have to keep doing the process, keep doing the work inside to figure out what it is that moves us, that brings us joy, that we're passionate about, and staying the course to try to see those actions, those things to fruition. And that's how we make our contribution to the outside world. It's not seeking validation from the outside world, but really seeking what it is we have authentically inside to offer, and really manifesting it, really putting it out there. Now, one thing that will be very helpful in navigating this process is that the full moon always brings about that really high intuition and emotional intelligence. You know, our emotions go crazy, but they're also really strongly linked to the intuition. And this happens even more so, right, when it comes to an eclipse. So take 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 advantage of that intuition and start taking a look at the parts of you that you don't want to see. It's easy for me to say that. I know, I do the work myself. I know how hard it is to do that. We have to look in the mirror and see our dark side, see our shadow, see the things about us that we don't really want to see, and take responsibility for those parts of ourselves, and look at them with love. You know, it's not to call out our dark sides and, you know, isolate them and say shame, shame, shame on you. It's to bring them back into ourselves in a loving way and in a useful way, so that we can again seek, find that which really makes us tick, you know, that which really just sets us off. You know, we feel the love for ourselves, we feel the passion, we feel the connection to others in society. You have to use that work with looking at your dark side to help you find that, so that you can put that forth in the world, because that's what the world needs. Okay. And that's how you that's how you get your validation, because you have done your inner work, or you are doing. It's never completed, right? You're doing your inner work, you're facing your responsibilities, you're showing yourself love in that process, you're finding out, uncovering you're lifting the veil and uncovering all the bullshit, you know, honestly, and finding what it is that truly makes you tick, and you put that out into the world. And that's the work that you should be doing for this full moon. It's a perfect time for that work.
Oh, that was so lovely. I talk a lot about the shadow self, about
Mm-hmm.
doing the work, looking at the dark side, because that dark side really allows you to see the light and the
Mm-hmm.
gifts that you have to share with others. And so
Exactly.
that it's the perfect time. So if you've been putting it off more, if you've been distracting yourself by keeping busy, baking sourdough, taking walks, hobbies, cleaning. Oh, you can't escape. It'll come out, it'll come for you, and it's
Oh
coming for
yeah.
you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So just be prepared to show yourself lots of love. Give yourself lots of hugs. Have lots of tissues next to you for lots of crying, and do the work. You know, a lot of us are. You know, this is the kind of thing that's coming up right now. Again, with, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement. It's time to look at, you know, each of us, white, people of color, Black, look at our own responsibilities in keeping this system of oppression up and running. You know, it's not something you want to do, right? It's not work that you
It's
want to do,
it's
but
tough.
it's so necessary. Yeah,
It's
go
tough
ahead.
because we are all complicit.
Hmm.
We're
Yeah.
we are all complicit in some way. It could be feeling like, well, I can't change anything, or oh, I didn't realize it was a big deal. But somehow everything we have always known, it has come out in a way that is just so clear, undeniable. You can't ignore it. And so everyone is just
Hmm.
thinking, and processing and understanding the steps that they need to take moving forward so that we can build a better society, culture, country, world for ourselves.
Exactly. And that's the penultimate example of the type of, you know, the type of work that should be and could be done during this particular new moon phase, where the benefit, you know, there's so many benefits to doing this work. It's not easy work. Again, there will be lots of crying. But when you get on the other side of it, you realize how much more capacity you have for love for yourself, and maintaining your boundaries, for example, and the higher capacity you have to be able to help others, to be able to love others, and realize that we're really all on the same team. But you got to do the work first, right? you know?
Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to go back and clarify eclipses. What is eclipse energy? And we've had two already in the month of June. So I
Mm-hmm.
imagine that's why June uh, was so intense. And if you could
Mm-hmm.
share just a little bit more about, how eclipses amplify energy, that would be so wonderful.
Well, actually, there's not really much more to say about it than what you just said. It's just that, especially for a lunar eclipse, the full moon eclipses, the particular things that are amplified are the emotions in general, emotional intelligence slash or plus intuition, and when those things are heightened, those are extremely extraordinary opportunities for us to dig in and do work on ourselves with our shadow in particular. So these are like golden gem, like these are golden gems, but either gold or some kind of gem. Golden diamonds of it's getting late, I don't know, but these are great opportunities for us to do work on ourselves, to really grow, to grow into what, right, to grow into who we really are. So we came into this world as babies with whatever intention we had with being born. But with each passing year, and with each year of socialization, and with each year of traumatic experiences, and with each year of just trying to survive in the workplace, and with each year of all of these things, that adds another veil, another cover to our authenticity. So it gets buried and buried and buried under each of these covers. Eclipse energy, eclipse times are times that are really potent for being able to do work in inside, to lift those covers, to lift those veils, to get back to authenticity. And it's done through, as you mentioned before, as I mentioned before as well, it's done through working, taking that hard look in the mirror. Okay, it's not the love and light, it's shining the light on the things that we don't really want to see. And once we do that, that's when the process just kind of naturally unfolds, and we lift those covers, we lift those veils, and we get back into authenticity. So that's why it's important to take advantage of the eclipses.
Absolutely, absolutely. And is there anything else that we need to know for the summer?
Well, we are currently in Mercury retrograde, and I know everybody hates a good Mercury retrograde. It's got such a bad rap, man. Poor Mercury, but or poor Mercury when it's in retrograde. But one thing I really like about this Mercury retrograde is that it has some interplay with the Sirius constellation, and Sirius is all about the the love, man. It's like the hippie constellation is, it's love, it's harmony, it's balance, it's peace, it's goodwill. So be on the lookout for that kind of energy being able to shine through with everything that's going on with this Mercury retrograde. But Mercury retrograde does end in July. I think it is, let me look. Yep, July 12th it ends. So you have until then to take advantage of its interplay with the Sirius constellation. And then the new moon, I should let you know, the new moon is happening on July 20th. And this one is in Cancer. So, oh my God, more feels.
Feelings. So
Right?
watery, so feeling, but also very intuitive. This has been a tough summer. It is currently tough and it is going to be tough.
Right. So basically, you will be on the floor in the corner crying for the month of July. Okay. So just get ready for that. We're here, we're in July, we got that full moon eclipse coming in a couple of days to start it off. Get your playlist ready to work through it. So yeah, the new moon is on the 20th and it's in Cancer. So yeah, there's lots of feels, there's lots of intuition happening. There's lots of needing to have some kind of positive relationship going on with home life or with family life or something related to that, to feel a nice sense of safety. Let me try to think of what else I can. New moon, Cancer. New moons are a time of new beginnings, as you know. So again, take advantage of so that few days before July 20th, make sure you get a little bit of rest in. Make sure you do a little bit of meditation. Uh, find yourself in a really balanced state. Start to let go of the things that you just can no longer work on. You can no longer affect. Just stop hitting your head against the wall. Let that go, so that when this new moon is here, you can find some clarity about what it is you need to be doing next. So the new moon is all about visioning what you're going to do for that next moon cycle, for these next several weeks. So find some clarity with that release a few days before. Get your journal out on new moon night. Open a window, look outside, and start writing. Take a few breaths and just let the pen or the pencil do the work, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that something to note as well is everyone processes emotions very differently. And so I would recommend to those who are listening to look into your birth chart to see where your moon placement is, to better understand how you can self-care and ultimately how you process emotions, because everyone is a bit different. I myself have Capricorn as my moon sign, and so it's very
Mm.
practical, it's very grounded. It wants to explain the emotions instead of feel the emotions. And so that's something that I know I've gone and really thought about, and actually, well, try to not think about, because that's what we usually do. So I'd recommend you check out your birth chart, where your moon placement is. It will tell you how you process emotions as well as the best ways to self-care.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Knowing at least our sun signs, our moon signs, and our rising can be really, really helpful with figuring out how we move about in the world, how we start things, how we process things, and things like that. I personally am a Virgo moon, so I can kind of like you overthink things, get too caught up in paying attention to the details. So I have to find some other balanced energy to really like be able to let things go. It's really hard for me to do that as well.
Yes, I totally
Yeah.
agree. I totally agree. So I know that before we talked about how you started Moon Mag, and in previous conversations that we've had, you shared with such intention the creation of the magazine. And it really seems like you yourself are just flowing so effortlessly with the moon cycles and the co-creation of your magazine.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, with the way it came about, Moon Mag came to me in such an effortless way, in such a beautiful and loving way. It was just an expression of creativity, just as like an artist goes to the canvas and just starts to draw something without overthinking or even thinking anything, without it being a mental process at all. So that's how Moon Mag came to me. And the way it was received by my friends and colleagues and things like that it was overwhelmingly positive, and I didn't even expect that at all. I just put it out there. It's like, hey, here's a free magazine. What's up? Enjoy. And but something clicked as all of that happened. I have started ventures. I'm like entrepreneurship is in my blood. My parents were entrepreneurs. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. Um, this kind of thing just really interests me and really is something I'm really passionate about. So that I've tried to start several businesses over the years for the last, I don't know, 10 or so years. And I ended up burning out with every single one of them. And I had not yet been able to overcome this burnout thing. So I really noticed how different the creation process was for that April issue of Moon Mag. And so I quickly recognized that was important. It was important for me to be balanced and not get stressed out about anything. I mean, that's the kind of thing that leads to burnout really quickly, especially if you're a one-man shop producing anything, producing something, even if you're a yoga teacher, if you're a one-man shop, it's easy to burn out really quickly because you have to do everything yourself. And so even as I started to market for this magazine and figure out other, business elements that needed to be conjured up, it was just, I didn't stress myself out about it. I didn't allow these lists of things to pile up and make me go bananas like I did before with everything else. And so it's important to me for Moon Mag to be created in balance. If ever I feel stressed out, like I'm spiraling into worrying about a deadline or anything like that, I actually stop work altogether. I don't push through. I stop, I spend time with my family, I cook, I go for a walk or something like that. And then I come back to it and things flow much easier. And so it's really important to me to for myself and for the longevity of this business, which I think is a really important offering for the world. It's important for the long term to stay in this balance. And it's important that the energy I infuse into this creation is not one of stress. I've worked the stressful job, the 9 to 5 corporate type thing where you just feel awful. You're in this toxic environment and you can't see a way out. And I don't want any of that kind of energy on anything I put out into the world. What I do now is with intention. I can now, since I work for myself, I can make decisions to work with who I want to work with based on how I receive their energy, based on what they put out there. And I can work on my own timeline. And so it's important for me. Why would I want to, if I have all of that power over my own work, why would I want to add stress and toxicity and all of this kind of status quo to my work? I don't want that. I don't want to put more of that out there into the world because the world doesn't need more of that. That's done. Saturn retrograde has told us that.
Yes, it's hard because of the conditioning, right? Of
Yeah.
most of us have come or are currently in that 9 to 5, and it's always much more of a force and a push rather than a flow. But
Mm-hmm.
something that I've realized for myself, and this is the third business that I've started in this specific business, I'm like, well, what's the point if you're not having fun? And why would I create
Yeah.
a box for myself when I don't need to? Like, I am the only one placing limits, shoulds on myself. So if something's not coming to me, or, if I start a project or a service and it just doesn't vibe well, then it's in my every right to just be like, well, I'm not going to do it anymore because
Mm-hmm.
what's the point? Then you just be putting yourself in that quote unquote corporate box again with all of those
Mm-hmm.
like feelings of needing to do things and needing to work with certain people. But all of those things have fallen away, or rather fall away, when you start your own business.
Right, right. And I think more and more people are starting their own small businesses, either if it's something on the side in addition to the 9 to 5, or something that they transfer into something full time. So more and more people are having the opportunity to work in this way. And I think that's something over the next decade or so that's going to catch on really strong. And it'll be interesting to watch as these corporate structures gain more and more power and monopoly and money, but also see on the other side of that. And, partly because of that, more people starting their own businesses to put out there what it is that they really passionately want to put out there into the world, and to have some kind of agency over their own lives. It'll be interesting to see that play out.
Yes. I don't think people realize that there really is an energy transference of how you are feeling into the thing that you create, whether it's intangible or not. So when I flipped through your digital magazine, I could feel the intention, the creativity, the love, the attention to detail on every single page. It's like art. I think from an artistry point of view, we can immediately see it and feel it when you go to see someone perform, when you hear music, when you go to a gallery, you can see how they were feeling in the art. Hear it as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for saying that about the magazine. I really I really am in such gratitude for hearing that, because yeah, again, it's really important for me to like no bullshit, like, you know, genuinely put only love into it. If I feel that there's any stress starting to go into that creation, Alice, I stop. You know, I don't do it, even if I think it might mean that the publication will be a day late. I mean, it hasn't been so far, but you know, I think, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, maybe the magazine will come out a day late. Okay, I'm willing to risk that over putting the wrong energy into it, because that's not, I mean, you think of the moon, that's not even what the moon is about. You know, it's this chill orb, right? It's the most it's the most relaxed orb that, you know, that one could think of. It's so powerful, it makes such big moves and has such a strong effect, but without, you know, spiraling itself into a frenzy. It has its cycle of rotation. It does its thing, or not rotation, because there's the backside of the moon we never even really see, but it moves in its certain way, and it does its thing, and it does so, like, you know, quietly, and with this this power that you can't even put words to, right? And
Yes.
so I would be doing it injustice to to create something in the name of the moon in a frenetic way, you know.
So I wanted to also give you an opportunity to share more about what's next for Moon Mag and the community.
Well, the biggest thing that's next and is the July issue. So the July issue will be ready at the end of June. You can right now, at this very moment, the way to buy Moon Mag is through the Instagram account at the official Moon Mag. You just click on the link in bio and you can buy it for $6 there. But the next big thing that's coming up is the website. Oh my gosh. So again, I created Moon Mag without actually having this intention of starting this business. So, you know, I'm just creating the business as it goes along, uh, and I'm starting to, you know, plan all the proper phases now. So the website, which, you know, in any business sense should have been up first, is it's going up now. It'll be up in time for you to purchase the July issue. It's also a work of love. I'm really excited about it. There will be a moon sign calculator on the website, so you'll be able to figure out what your moon sign is there. There will be lots of helpful articles. I'll have a nice long bit of information about each phase of the moon, so you can go right to the website and go to the 8 moon phases and see what each one is about and what you should be doing for each phase. I'll have a whole section on moon yoga sequence with the names of the poses, pictures of the poses, and how to get into each pose. So if you want to have like a nice chill yoga session with yourself before you go to sleep, a nice moon sequence would be perfect for that. Some of the content of the magazine that's really important, like some of the highlights of each month, like the new moon, the full moon, and any other planetary highlights will be appearing on the website. So this is a huge thing that's coming out towards for the beginning of July. And the next biggest thing that I'll be putting my loving energy into is really getting the community offering out there. So Moon Sanctuary will be a monthly subscribable membership. You pay each month. And each month, I will provide for you a virtual new moon and a virtual full moon ritual, and those will be accompanied with workbooks, so you can, ask yourself the deep questions. You can do some of the work before the actual live ritual, and you can do some work after as well. So with the 2 rituals, you will also be able to get the digital magazine Moon Mag along with that subscription. You'll get a music playlist so you can have inspiration to keep you going based on each moon theme for each month, and a few other goodies. So that will be a section on the website that you can also take a nice close look at. And I will be doing a lot more work to give more attention to it. It will be called Moon Sanctuary. It's the Sanctuary for short. So Moon Sanctuary will really be getting out there. I'm very excited about providing this virtual community. And I just want to put out there that, there's lots of wonderful men and women throughout the world who have different versions of their own moon rituals and moon memberships and things like that. So there's something out there for each person. It's important for me for people to feel like they really vibe with and understand and want to know more about the virtual community I offer, to be a strong member of that community, for this to really be something that is worth your time and your money each month. So I just want to put out there that there's lots of this going on, but you have to find the community that's right for you. And I'm hoping that Moon Sanctuary is the one for you. Those are the offerings coming up now: the website, the July issue, and Moon Sanctuary.
Well, thank you so much, Clyde. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you today. I'm excited to read the July issue and see the website and join the community.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you as part of the community. That will be awesome.
Be sure to check out the latest issue of Moon Mag and the online community. Clyde's dedication to intentionally and carefully infusing all her creative work with a specific energy really stood out to me during our conversation. It's something I've always paid attention to, but was reminded again how this is how I truly want to live. In the show notes, I've included information about how you can live more intentionally by following the moon and more in the workbook for this episode. I also share information about how to self-care by understanding your moon placement in your astrological birth chart. The moon represents the divine feminine and shows how we can find more of a flow and collaborative approach to life, a harmony, if you will. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and rate the podcast 5 stars.